Hey everybody, Joe here. We have some more updates for you this evening. This will probably be my last update. Um, I'm going to try to talk about a couple things that have happened. Here you can see on the screen now. This is from about 3 hours ago. The House just voted to advance Democrats' bill to give billions to big rich health insurance through Obamacare 2021-05 or 221 to 205. 9 Republicans joined Democrats to make this happen, betraying President Trump. Unbelievable, says Eric Doherty. It's not. Here are their names. Brian Fitzpatrick, of course. That's the pro-Ukraine idiot. Rob Bresnahan, Tom Keene, Nick LaLota. These are New Jersey, New York, and PA so far. Mike Lawler, also New York. Ryan McKenzie, also PA. Max Miller, Ohio. Maria Elvira Salazar. That's the chick that wanted to pass that law from Florida. To allow illegals to stay, and David Valadio, California. So none of these are surprising. These are RINOs, and they need to go. So anyway, that just happened. We'll see what happens in the Senate. Trump will probably not sign that, I would hope. We'll see what happens, though. Anyway, let's move along. That is that. That is that. Let me go ahead. I'm going to bring this up for you really quick. Let me get that brought up. There it is. And there we go. We'll get that pulled up right there. Kristy Noem held a press conference about what went down today and out there in Minnesota. I thought we'd take a look at that really quick. Let me go ahead and turn off the X tab for now. We'll get back to that in a minute, though, I promise. And let me make this a little bit bigger on the actual screen. Again, guys, I'm broadcasting from downstairs from my laptop. It's not as convenient as my dual screen desktop. So here we go. Let's take a listen to what happened, what she has to say, so on and so forth.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I want to start out by addressing the loss of life that we saw here in Minneapolis today. Any loss of life is a tragedy, and I think all of us can agree that in this situation it was preventable. I've spoken to the president today on the situation here on the ground. I also just got off the phone a little while ago with Governor Walz and spoke to him as well. I want to reiterate first with all of you the facts of what happened today. At 10:25 a.m. Central Time, Immigration and Customs Enforcement were carrying out lawful operations here in Minneapolis. Because of the adverse weather that Minneapolis has seen in recent snow, one of the vehicles became stuck and ensnared in the snow. Law enforcement were attempting to push out this vehicle, and when a mob of agitators that were harassing them all day began blocking them in, shouting at them, and impeding law enforcement.
And you could kind of hear it in my last video. I had noise suppression on because I'm downstairs for that video, so you don't hear the background noise down here. But what happens is because of the way that this works, it was noise suppressing the video too. So there was yelling. It was like in and out, but you could hear that you could clearly hear that there was yelling in the last video, in that one video I played. So again, it was obvious there was a crowd. I would like to point out again, these people have these action committees, whatever you want to call them, groups where ICE shows up. These people start, being domestic terrorists and fighting against ICE. This is not a secret. We've known this since last year.
Enforcement operations. ICE officers and agents approached the vehicle of the individual in question, who was blocking the officers in with her vehicle, and she had been stalking and impeding their work all throughout the day. ICE agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car and to stop obstructing law enforcement, but she refused to obey their commands. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over. This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism. The ICE officer, fearing for his life and the other officers around him and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training to save his own life and that of his colleagues. He was treated at a local hospital, has been released, and is now with family. I encourage the American people at this point in time to pray for him, but also to pray for the deceased's family and her loved ones. Today alone in this country, there have been 4 different domestic terrorist attacks on federal officers by the ramming of vehicles. 3 of them happened here in Minneapolis. We've seen over 100 of these vehicle rammings happen in just recent weeks, and this must stop. ICE alone is facing a 1,300% increase in assaults against them and an 8,000% increase in death threats against all of them. In fact, the very same officer who was attacked today had previously been dragged by an anti-ICE rioter who had rammed him with a car and drug him back in June. He sustained injuries at that time as well. And let me remind you why we're all here in this city today and why we've been here. In communities across this country and here in Minneapolis, we're just enforcing the laws that we have in this country. For years under President Biden, tens of millions of dangerous criminal illegal aliens, terrorists, and suspected terrorists were allowed to invade our country over our southern border. They were allowed to steal, to defraud, and to perpetuate violence against American citizens. Regardless of who your mayor or who your governor is, President Trump promised every single American that he would make America safe again. He promised every single American that he would work to protect them from dangerous criminals. Since Governor Walz has been in charge of Minnesota, we have seen homicides go up by over 50%. That's also during Mayor Frye's tenure as well. Since President Trump took office, Governor Walz has released over 470 violent criminals back onto the streets here in Minneapolis. He has another 680 of them still within his jurisdiction that he could give to us today to face the consequences for their crimes. Because Governor Walz and Mayor Frye refuse to protect Minnesotans and instead they protect these criminals, that's why we are here. And we didn't just show up yesterday, we've always been here. But we're surging operations because of the dangerous situation we see in this country and because we're no longer going to allow illegal criminals to damage and harm, to kill, to sexually abuse, to proliferate drugs, and to steal American taxpayers' dollars. This state has faced unprecedented immigration fraud. It's seen unprecedented benefit fraud. Individuals were allowed to come into this country and set up fake companies and fake nonprofits and divert billions of dollars away from American citizens and those vulnerable citizens who truly needed the services from those programs.
Yeah, but I mean, American citizens commit fraud, they say. Yeah, exactly. Like I said in my last video, so American citizens commit fraud. We don't need to import more fraud. It doesn't even make sense. The left has such childlike arguments on everything that it just makes your brain, if you're a smart person or a person with even more than, remotely 2 brain cells rubbing together, that argument is stupid, right?
And your mayor and your governor let it happen. President Trump is not going to let that happen. He and our federal law enforcement officers are here to bring peace and to bring public safety and to ensure that criminal activity is stopped and that people who perpetuate it will face consequences. Since we have been here in recent weeks, we have arrested over 1,500 criminals off of the streets. Our law enforcement has arrested murderers, known and suspected terrorists, child pedophiles, and other brutal criminals that were protected here in this city. We should all work together to protect our citizens. We should all protect the men and the women and the families who live here in Minneapolis, who live in Minnesota, and live throughout this entire country. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for focusing on the important work that our federal officers do and make sure that we're focused on the priorities of this country, and that's making sure that we're keeping people safe. With that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Secretary, Mayor Frye called the claims of self-defense BS. How do you respond to that?
So in case you couldn't hear her, I don't know, because I'm recording this, I can hear it, but you may not be able to on the other end. It's just something I've noticed with this dumb software. She said, Mayor Frye claimed that the claims of self-defense are BS. What do you say to that? She's about to answer right now.
Say that he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's very clear that this individual was harassing and impeding law enforcement operations. Our officer followed his training, did exactly what he's been taught to do in that situation, and took actions to defend himself and defend his fellow law enforcement officers.
Secretary, can you expand too on the agent's injuries? The president said that he's lucky to be alive.
The officer was hit by the vehicle. She hit him. He went to the hospital. A doctor did treat him. He has been released, but he's going to spend some time with his family.
Can you clarify whether you would be before or after the gunshot was fired?
I can't, but the FBI will continue the investigation and release more facts when it's appropriate.
Secretary Noem, have the agents been relieved of his duty, or can you give us any other?
No, we're following the standard protocol procedures we do in situations like this. When there's an officer involved shooting, we make sure that we get the facts and that we are getting the statements from everybody involved and make sure that investigators are handling the decisions.
Secretary Noem, have ICE operations paused because of what happened today?
No, we're still out on the streets doing our work to get dangerous criminals off of the streets of Minneapolis.
Can you tell any insight into your conversation with the governor?
You know, Tim and I have known each other for years. We served in Congress together. We both ran for governor the same year and have served as governor at the same times. So we were colleagues and we discussed what happened here today. We have two very different viewpoints of it. I talked specifically about the fact that we have laws, they need to be enforced. He knows that I believe sanctuary policies have protected criminals and placed a priority of them over the citizens that live here. And he knows we'll continue to do our work. And I encouraged him to work with us. We've never had a cooperative arrangement with law enforcement here. Whenever we've done investigations, whenever we've done police work, when we've been doing what we can to bring people to justice for the crimes that they commit, we haven't had the cooperation of the state of Minnesota or the city police here under the mayor's direction. If you talk to any of these federal law enforcement officers, they'll say that when they call for backup in a situation, that it's hit and miss. They were grateful today that the police chief and local law enforcement showed up at the scene and helped secure it to make sure that nobody was harmed and that the FBI could do their work. But I would encourage them to work with us, that we could form a partnership that would make sure that individuals have the opportunity to have a safe Minneapolis.
Secretary Noem, will body
Over here.
Really stand behind the use of force, and will any of those use of force guidelines be altered or changed in the future?
You know, it's clearly established law that a vehicle driven by a person and used to harm someone is a deadly weapon. Deadly force is perfectly lawful when a threat is faced by a weapon. So I do believe that this officer used his training in this situation, and we'll let the FBI continue the investigation to get it resolved.
So just to be clear, did the shooting happen before or after the vehicle hit the officer?
I know you keep asking that, but that doesn't mean that the FBI is going to give you an answer today. There will be an investigation.
Keep asking. Did the shooting happen before or after the vehicle hit the officer? It doesn't matter. If you're driving at the officer and attempting to hit him, he can shoot you. That's how that works. Like, are these people, how do these people even, I just can't.
We want to make sure that it's factual. What I would ask is that as we go forward from here today, that we all remember that our job is to have peaceful discussions. I'd encourage our local law enforcement and state law enforcement to work with us. We are going to continue to operate here in Minneapolis and in the state of Minnesota to make sure we're going after dangerous criminals. One of the key focuses that we've had here is a focus on individuals who are sexual predators and are involved in child exploitation. When I was just here yesterday, we arrested individuals who were charged with criminal assault and sexual assault and people that exploited children. Why would you want to keep them on your streets? President Trump has promised to go after the worst of the worst, and that's exactly what we're doing in Minneapolis. By not working with us, Governor Walz and Mayor Frey are putting those criminals and prioritizing them over our children and our grandchildren.
Governor Walz said that he is not going to give any heads up when there is one.
And that's simply not true. He said that to me on the phone too. So I'll get him the documentation that he needs so that he knows that we would love to coordinate with him. He doesn't give us access to any.
Okay, so the reporter, I could barely even hear, so I'm assuming you're not going to be able to hear it. I said Governor Walz said that he wasn't given the heads up on any of this to be able to coordinate, and she's like, that's simply not true. So I don't know, whatever.
Information on criminals, let us know who he's detained, doesn't honor our detainers, and has individuals and criminals in his jurisdiction that he won't turn over us today too. Yes.
You mentioned that the officer involved today was once before raped by a vehicle. Can you explain the difference between that instance and today? Was the firearm discharged then? If not, what was the big difference?
So the leftist reporter with the hoarse voice, I assume she's a leftist, said you had indicated that this officer had been run over before, or attempted to be run over before. She's basically asking, what was the difference? Did he fire a gun then too?
I won't speak to that case right now, but we can get you the details and the information on that. But the facts of the matter is he's an experienced officer. He's been in situations like this before, and he certainly has been out there and followed his training today.
Given the threat of vehicle encounters, are you going to change the way police?
You know, people need to stop using their vehicles as weapons.
Are you going to change the?
This domestic act of terrorism to use your
She's the reporter asked, given the threat of vehicle encounters.
vehicle to try to kill law enforcement officers is going to stop. And I'm asking the Department of Justice to prosecute it as domestic terrorism because it's clear that it's being coordinated. People are being trained and told how to use their vehicles to impede law enforcement operations and then to run over anybody who gets in their way while they go out there and try to disrupt peace and public safety. And Americans deserve better.
So can you say why they were investing in National Guard? Why the National
That hasn't been a part of the discussion. I know Governor Walz mentioned some of that earlier in his press conference, but we've got law enforcement officers here that will continue to work, and we're hopeful that the public recognizes that the work that we do every day makes America safe again.
Can you get
With that,
into the operation that was happening at 31 to Portland?
we had law enforcement officers that were out there
She had asked what the operation was out there, as if that matters somehow, right?
doing an enforcement action. And a vehicle got stuck in the snow. And so they had called for other people to come and help them get that vehicle out. Those officers were trying to free the vehicle when the harassment started, when the protesters were out there impeding their vehicles and preventing them from leaving the scene.
Was it at a particular home or business in that intersection?
I won't speak to that.
Can you speak to the crime that person maybe committed that you were going after?
Mm-mm.
You mentioned sexual crime. Okay. Will body camera footage be released?
I will let the FBI decide.
Were they on target today when they were in that neighborhood?
They were returning back to headquarters, I believe, to start a new operation, had just completed one.
Was it a nice?
Well, thank you. What's that?
Was it a nice vehicle that had?
I was one of the vehicles that ICE officers were using. But remember, when we operate in a task force model. So we have other federal agencies that work with us, and we're very grateful for that. We have CBP officers, the FBI, DEA, ATF, all of those all work with us every day in a task force model, and we appreciate it. We'd love to have the state police, and we'd also love to have the Minneapolis police chief and his team be alongside of us while we're out there doing those enforcement operations. With that, we'll get you more information as it is revealed, but thank you and everybody. Let's work together to make sure that we can continue to help the city be safer, get more criminals off the streets, and ensure that our public has the opportunity to pursue the American dream in a city they can be proud of. Thank you.
All right. And then, of course, on your right there, you can just barely see him off camera there in the green. That is Greg Bovino. He's a badass. I love that guy. He's fucking funny. He does not mince words, and nobody should with the left. So here we go. We've got this leftist journalist. She writes for everything from Rolling Stone, The Nation, The Intercept, Guardian US, Politico, Drop Site News. The woman killed today by ICE was a poet. She won the 2020 Academy of American Poets, a University of College Poetry Prize at Old Dominion University. This was her bio. Renee Macklin, that's her before she was married to her husband who passed away, apparently, and now she's a lesbian, is from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Somebody should look into her. Never mind, I'm not going to say it. And is studying creative writing at ODU. Her poetry has been published in Metrosphere and Coronado Literary Review. And she currently co-hosts a podcast with her husband, but not anymore because he's dead. So she, comedian Tim Macklin. So I guess there's a comedian named Tim Macklin that was her husband. Let's check into that. Tim Macklin is a comedian known for his engaging storytelling and relatable humor with appearances on various podcasts and television shows. Blah, blah, blah. Notable works are Dear Food Network, Thanksgiving, Ham on the Street, The Kitchen. What? He has been featured in so is he dead? I heard on X that he was dead. Okay, so let's see if he's dead. Oh, yeah, okay, maybe he did. Tim, comedian mentioned in connection with the death of Renee. Okay. A poet and mother. Good was shot by yada yada. And Tim Macklin Jr., her husband, who also mentioned in the context of their family, the incident has led to conflicting accounts regarding the circumstances surrounding Good's death, with some reports suggesting she attempted to use her vehicle as a weapon. Tim Macklin passed away in 2023. The family's grieving his loss. I can tell. That's what I do when I'm grieving somebody's losses. I go out, try to run over ICE agents. So this is her. You can clearly, she's got that look. And then she shares some of the poetry. And then we've got Andy No here. He says, she was a poet who was radicalized into leftist extremism and ultimately criminal violence. She was narrowly stopped before she could kill. And this is one of her poems right here. I'll bring it up on screen. This is the 2020 Academy of American Poets Prize for this poem here, On Learning to Dissect Fetal Pigs by Renee Nicole Macklin. I want back my rocking chairs. Solipsist sunsets. A coastal jungle sounds that are, it's hard to read with this screen, man, that are tarsets from cicadas and pentameter from the hairy legs of cockroaches. That won an award. Then there's another one that I saw too, where she was talking about gathering up Bibles and throwing them away from people that were preaching on the street corner or something along those lines. I don't think I bookmarked. Oh, maybe this is it. I've donated Bibles. Okay, there it is. I've donated Bibles. I think this might be the same thing. I've donated Bibles to thrift stores, mashed them in plastic trash bags with an acidic Himalayan salt lamp. The post-baptism Bibles, the ones plucked from street corners from the meaty hands of zealots, the dumbed down, easy to read, parasitic kind. So anyway, I don't know. This lady is insane and she's dead. So that's pretty much that. I just wanted to give you guys the update. Not a whole lot else going on that I've seen, per se. So let me double check my bookmarks, just make sure I didn't miss anything. Whoops. That's my list of people who put me on lists, retards who make lists. Let's see, click the wrong thing. There we go. Let's just double check, make sure I didn't miss anything. That's her there again. We've already seen all that. I'll get another video on that video there. Anyway, guys, that's really all I got for you in this video. Not a whole lot. Let me just click back onto actual X, see what we got. Nadler, that's going to be stupid. And here is what's going on right now in Minnesota. People are marching for the dead lesbian poet who tried to run over a ICE officer. And that would be the perfect time to test out your car's bumper and see if you got a good deal on it. Yeah, I don't know why people put up with this nonsense. I'm going to be honest. I do not know why people put up with this nonsense. I would not. But yeah, you can see they're doing the same nonsense as usual. Once again, I appeared on The View, that coming from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Super happy to be with the leftists on The View. She bashed Trump and so on for Venezuela. Okay, let's see. Watching a woman die will change my life forever, eyewitness says. They carried her body out just like by her limbs. They didn't even have a stretcher. She was carried out like a sack of potatoes. Well, she was dead, so she was a sack of potatoes. Using their vehicles as weapons, she's literally tried waving them through. No, that's not who she was waving through. That is a false narrative. She was waving actual traffic through as she held up ICE. This is before they got out of their cars. This is before all of it. So yeah, that is nonsense. So there we go. Let's see. The footage clearly shows Renee Nicole Good trying to wave the ICE agent's car ahead. That car there is not. These fucking people, dude. I can't. There is the ICE agent's truck right there. She's not waving any longer. And she knows that it's them because there's a flash. This was somebody else that was probably part of the agitators. So anyway, now we've got, what do we got here? The witness to the Minneapolis shooting tells CNN that an ICE convoy was stuck in the road and the woman who was shot blocked traffic so they couldn't progress. Well, let's take a listen to her.
Emily Heller is out front now, who you heard there and filmed that in that horrifically traumatic moment. So Emily, I know you live there. This is your street. This is your home. And you're inside your house. You hear all.
And keep in mind, we're talking about this rather than the revelations that were on Capitol Hill that I showed you in my last video.
All of this commotion, everything is starting to happen. Okay, can you tell me what happened then? You hear everything. You come outside, and then what?
I hadn't even gotten dressed. I was making breakfast. I went out. I heard the commotion. I heard whistles, which is the common sign of ICE is nearby. And I went out onto my front porch. I didn't even have shoes on. And within 60 seconds, everything had already gone down. But there was an ICE convoy that seemed to be stuck, and then there was a protester who was blocking traffic, so they couldn't progress. And she was totally peaceful, and ICE, it seemed completely unorganized. They didn't really know what they were doing. They were screaming at her to move, move, move. And then they approached her vehicle aggressively and tried to open her door. And then that's when she got spooked, and she reversed her vehicle to turn her wheels to try to escape. And that's when an ICE agent stepped in front of her vehicle and said, "Stop." And then
Now, you can clearly see that the ICE agent didn't step in front of her vehicle. He was there when she drove off. He had been there. Because as you heard from Noem, this bitch had been following him around with her lesbian, whatever the hell, harassing them all day. This is a 5-minute clip. I'm not going to bother with it, but I just wanted to show you what the media is doing. And you can see the little leftist minions. Oh, she turned her wheel. She turned her wheel. Watch what her wheel does. It turns towards the ICE officer. And she hits him. He gets thrown back as he shoots. So, yeah, I don't want to hear it. Anyway, guys, that's the update for you. Kristy Noem let out a statement. It's going to be the same PSYOP BS from the left. None of their people can do any wrong. It's always everybody else's fault. And I will talk to you again very, very soon. You all have a great night.